So here is the smaller cabinet to hold 10 Harbor Freight boxes. It's built off the same, it's the same kind of design that I did for the stand-up one that I have a video on as well. And this is just a smaller version. I had some scrap wood, was looking to just get out of the house and do a little project. And it works the same way. Boxes actually come out. I'll take a couple of these boxes out. The shelf slides out so you can put a deeper box in there if you want to put a deeper box in there. The other thing that I still I'm trying to do is I was testing these fast cap labels, which I have one of them here, and they actually don't. This size label doesn't really. The thinner ones might be okay, but it kind of was peeling off on me. But I honestly like the printed labels better. So I have some of the printed labels here with the Brother P Touch. I kind of like those better. It just looks a little more professional. So I'm going to be changing the labels on all the boxes for the Brother P Touch. And then I plan on putting that the stack of boxes in alphabetical order. But it's hanging on the wall with a cleat. It's not screwed to the wall. There's just a cleat on the back of the box, back of the cabinet. And there's a mating cleat on the wall as well. And then on the bottom of it, there's a 3/4 inch piece of wood to just keep it so it's perpendicular to the wall here. You can't really see it, but you can see the gap with the cabinet. That's the same spacing off the wall. So that's the cabinet. I didn't do full video on the whole assembly. I took some pictures. We'll get into that shortly, and I'll show you how it came together. And I did use pocket hole screws to assemble it, so you don't see any screws from the side. And I may paint this, I'm not sure, to maybe match the bottom one. But for now, I'm just going to keep it the way that it is. So anyway, here's how it came together. And if you do something similar, I'd be interested in seeing pictures or video. So anyway, here's how it came together. So I started with a piece of wood that I ripped to 13 inches, and this is 48 inches long. This is some scrap veneer plywood that I had left over from another project. So I just put it on my table saw, ripped it to 13 inches wide. Next, I cross-cut the 48-inch piece in half to 24 inches. So then I was left with two pieces that were 24 inches by 13 inches. With the two sides cut, I then cut a third piece of wood to 13 by 18.5 inches that was going to be the top of the cabinet. So next I needed to cut a piece of wood for the bottom. I didn't have a full piece, so I had to use some scrap to make up a piece of wood that I can join together and use for the bottom. So that was 18.5 inches wide by 6.5 inches, and then I glued and screwed those together using pocket holes. The pocket holes you can see pictured here are the pocket holes that will be used for each of the ends. Here I actually started with the first piece of wood, and I screwed and glued that one in place. Next I screwed and glued the second piece of wood in place, and you can see in the picture here I have the two pocket holes that are joining the two pieces of wood together to each other, and you can see the other pocket holes fastening it to the sides of the cabinet. With the four pieces of wood for the cabinet assembled, I needed to put on a back. You can see pictured here I have two pieces of scrap wood that I used for the back of the cabinet. This is going to be hanging on a wall, so it doesn't really make a difference if the wood is all the way across. You're not going to be able to see it anyway once it's hung. So I just used two pieces of scrap on the left and right side of the cabinet. So to get the cabinet to hang on the wall, I'm using a French cleat that you can see pictured here. I cut a small length and attached it to the back of the cabinet. The 45-degree angle is pointing down, and it's fastened on the cabinet side. It's going to mate up with the piece that's on the wall where I want to hang it. So I'm using the same techniques that I did in the other cabinets that I made, where I'm putting scraps of 1x material, 1x3s on the sides of the cabinet, and I'm going to do this dado system kind of all the way up each side of the cabinet. So here's the first row of 1x material that's in. I just cut them to a depth of 12 inches because I have some scrap I'm making this out of. Here's the first shelf of Lawan, and then I'm going to continue up the sides just like in my other video for the larger case that holds the storage boxes. As I fasten the sides into the left and the right side of the case, I use the 1/4-inch shelf along with a piece of scrap sandpaper there as a shim to be able to create a little bit of a space so the shelves would go in easier or come out easier if I want to accommodate the larger boxes. Okay, I just put the second row of 1x's in for the shelf. See, it slides out. Put on the top one and get ready to do the next row. So I continued up the left side and right side of the case, fastening the 1x material in place. When I got so close to the top of the case, I couldn't fit the drill in there with the shelf in place. So I used 2 scrap pieces of plywood that allowed me to kind of do the spacing along with the shim that I'm using there with the sandpaper, and I was able to get the drill in there and fasten those in place. With all of the 1x pieces in place, I was able to put the shelves in. You can see kind of farther up the case, I kind of ran out of scrap Lawan, was using a couple of pieces there to act as shelves until I could replace those. Even though they're shorter, they work just fine. With the case assembled, next I was going to hang on the wall. You can see the cleat fastened to the wall in place with 3 screws. Next I basically take the cabinet, hang it on the wall. The top piece of wood that you can see there is fastened to the back of the cabinet, and it mates up with the cleat that's fastened to the wall. Also, I wanted to just share real quick, I did something similar with, you can see the cabinet next to this that's holding the rigid toolboxes. And this is using half-inch shelves, half-inch plywood. But the assembly is identical to the parts box. I just used half-inch plywood for the shelves because I'm going to be putting more weight. And I did the same thing with the 1x material on the side. To create those dados. That's also hanging on the wall with a French cleat system. And I did also want to point out, because I have had people question me about why I use 1/4-inch plywood for the cabinets, for the small part storage, and would I do that again? And they hold up really well, even with things that are very heavy. It's not, you know, it's not a problem. So if I take this cabinet hardware out, which is pretty heavy, you get maybe a little bit of sag with the 1/4-inch shelves, but it's not really a big deal. It's just enough to be able to separate the boxes. And I'd rather, you know, if I used half-inch plywood all the way up, I would be able to probably store less boxes because there'd be more of a gap in the dados there with the 1x material. But anyway, I wanted to just show you this other box here with the rigid boxes in it. And I may do something above that. I have a couple of finished nailers there with hanging on the French cleat as well. So I may as well just show you this since I have it out here. So this is the profile of the French cleat. So this is actually what's mounted on the back of the cabinets, and then it slides in and locks into the French cleat there. That's on the wall that matches up with it. Thank you very much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Thank you.